Okay, ready. Let's go.
This is a podcast where we take a deep dive into issues we want to know more about.
Join us on our journey of routine progress.
Boom, 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 boom.
Welcome
Hello.
back.
Bam, bam.
Inaugural
Hi.
episode.
Oh my God! It's our inaugural episode of the new year in honor of the inaugural episode of
No.
the Washington in honor of New Year,
Yo,
New
first
Me.
episode after the apocalypse. What up?
Oh God. I mean, I think it's still a slow moving apocalypse, to be completely honest, but at least one with a little less anxiety for me.
Yo, straight up.
Do you think unity will be achieved, Richard?
Well, we've been in this press room for about 12 hours now, so I think we need to order lunch first. Straight up, like, yeah, you've been press secretary for like 12 seconds now, so like, what's up, girl?
Yeah.
They're like, tell us the tea.
Yeah. Reveal the documents. Unclassify the documents.
Yo. So honestly, yo, this feels so good to be back right now. This is our first episode of 2021. Clearly, we took a little bit of a hiatus, a little brief moment to gather ourselves at the end of last year, as I think everyone actually needed to, right?
It was a necessity. It wasn't an option. We were all like, need a minute. I need to get through this and get back.
Yeah, no. I think you'll see that because we've taken some time off to like really tend to ourselves personally and to really just roll into the new year as solid people. We've also made some small changes to the podcast. You'll see in our intro, you'll see in the smaller segments that we've added. So yeah, just look out for those smaller changes. And we want to say a big thank you to everyone who has stuck with us and everyone who's still tuning in right now. We really, really appreciate you guys.
Honestly, the love that I have in my heart for you is endless and unbounded.
It's like, you guys are right here. Tanisha Iman is right here. So that means a lot.
Denali's lip sync is right under that. But yeah, we wanted to take like this time in the new year to really like just clarify more of our message and our vibe for y'all in a way that speaks to us more, that hopefully you will enjoy. So let's just get into it, which is pretty on point with our first kind of episode today, which is focusing on New Year, New Me.
That's it. New Year, me. What are we doing? Who are we being in a new year?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was so interesting to me because there's so many, that sarcastic, cynical nature of the internet just bulldozes the idea of New Year, New Me in so many ways. And I feel myself kind of torn because I love like manifesting in a lot of ways, like from being a yoga teacher all my life. Like I love like playing with
so it's safe to say that you are someone who starts the new year with a set of new resolutions. Am I wrong?
I always want to, but mine always end up being a little bit more esoteric, you know, like I'm going to be less judgmental, or I'm going to like be more present, like all those kind of like ethereal things. And I was curious as to like, what?
Yo, okay, I'm sorry to start this right off the top, but this is a tangent that I must go on. Like, I've been having the most like visceral, random memories of Nick and I's friendship, which has been so long now. We've had a friendship that's lasted so long.
Is this going to be an embarrassing story?
No. It won't be the memory that I had 5 minutes ago that we shared.
Which we will not air.
I don't know if you even remember this or not, but I want to say that maybe it was when we were both in New York at some point, and yeah, man, your view of the New Year has always sort of been really esoteric and really like sort of like self-based. Because I remember one year you told me, you were like, "I'm going to complain less."
Yes.
You were like, my whole thing this year is I'm not going to complain. And then even when we would talk and hang out, you would be like, oh, I'm sorry, that sounded weird because I had to check myself because I was about to complain, and that transferred over so hardcore to me, and I was so grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because that's actually we're gonna get into this because there are like ways to step by step create manifesting goals and stuff versus like,
Yeah.
and that was one of them. It's like I can actually physically catch myself doing things like that. And there was like a actual habitual creating system that was happening there versus like
Yeah.
also like I'm going to be more present, which is like, okay, what does that even mean? So I'm
Exactly.
excited to kind of talk about this because there are these differences between how we're viewing it, how we intend to do it, and
Yeah.
like what makes it maybe work better with a physical goal, like a specific goal versus like a broad ranging and all that. So it's going to be
Like,
a
yeah,
really
no, no, go
exciting.
ahead.
Yeah, exciting.
No, I was gonna say you and I are, of course, like always the same boy, like always going through the same thing at the same time. But like we have our small differences, and like one thing that I do at the top of the year, like I'm not necessarily a like I'm not one for resolutions myself, just because I feel like the verbal commitment to a resolution is a setup. So like most of my like transition through the top of the new year involves like physically cleaning my space, doing
Mm.
like a spiritual cleanse, like, and just sort of doing a mental reset more so than setting resolutions. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it today to show you guys not only the differences that that Nick and I have when it comes to the top of the new year, but just to dive into the topic of New Year's resolutions altogether. Like, and we asked you guys some questions and got some really interesting feedback, so it'll be really cool to dive into that too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Are you new year or are you new me?
Mm. Yeah, new
So
year, new me, or same old bitch, basically.
yeah, yeah, which we'll get to how our audience feels about that.
Yeah, right.
Um, I think first and foremost, like what I wanted to do when I was investigating all this concept is like we throw around these words resolutions, we throw around goal, and we throw around intention, and but I feel like I've never really defined them for myself. And when someone asked me, when I was trying to ask myself like what does that even mean, or like I'm like I guess I think I know, but is there a difference or what are they?
Yeah, I guess it would help to know the actual different, like the definition of those words. So like set that up for me and set that up for everyone else out there. Like before we even approach it, like what are the actual differences between goals and like intentions and things like that?
Well, okay, so the definition of a goal is the object of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or a desired result. So like the goal is the object that you're trying to get to. A resolution is the firm decision to do or to not do something. So the resolution is like, I'm going to do this goal, right? So the difference is between the decision to do it and the actual thing that you're trying to do. And then
Yeah.
intention is like a thing intended, and then it says an aim or a plan. So I mean, both goal and intention say aim, but then intention has like a plan, which I think is really integral to this kind of step-by-step process we're going to break down of like what psychologically what it means to even set and achieve a goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So these, yeah.
No, no, go for it.
So yeah, so I mean, it's like it's just fascinating to me, like the psychology of all this shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I think the separation in the making clear definitively what these three things are separately is really important, because I think it's just the thing that people get mixed up the most for themselves mentally, and that's how it's easy to lose track of resolutions so quickly, because it's like sometimes you can make them too big, too lofty. Sometimes you can set yourself up for something that is too far ahead of you without thinking of the steps that are right in front of you first. So it's good to get those things clear and defined.
Yeah, yeah, being specific about it, I think can really help ease that stress that feels like sometimes you're like, I got to set a goal or I got to set a resolution. You're like, well, I don't know what the fuck. Like, yeah, like, well, we all want a lot of things, but how do we even like start moving towards them in a way that doesn't make us feel like we want to just like run into traffic? Maybe I'm speaking for myself. I don't know.
No, no, that makes total sense.
And what I love about kind of talking about it in terms of the new year is that a lot of the things that we were learning about in this episode, in researching this episode, was that a lot of the things that make goals happen or not happen or enhance them to become better are naturally there, like set up for you in the new year. And let's like get into that of what that actually entails.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit.
Hey, don't go away. When we come back, we're going to break down how to set goals and how to actually achieve them. But first, a new segment from us.
Ooh, what's that segment called, Nick?
I mean, Let me ask the audience.
Ask the audience. We polled our audience out there, and we want to know how many of you felt like you were new year, new me, and how many of you felt like you were the same old bitch. Turns out,
What are the results, Richard? What is our audience? Are they new or are they old?
Yo, turns out 60% of our audience feels like they're going to be the same old bitch, which, like, I get it. I resonate with that, you know?
But we all are the same old bitch.
Same old bitch. You're not an iPhone. You don't disintegrate when you walk out of the store, you know? Like, you're the same old person. We just got to add on to that.
Yeah. I mean, like, never new, always improved.
And yo, shout out to the other 40% who feel like new year, new me. And like, I hope you're doing that in the healthiest way possible. And know that you're still loved, BB. The old you we love, the new you we love, as long as you love yourself.
That's the key, right? Like, either way, doesn't matter. Just do it with love.
That's it.
T.
Hey, want to support a self-funded podcast? Click the donate link in the description below. What would you say, what would you tell everyone is the first step in making or having a goal?
Well, yeah, I'd like to start off with a quote here that really spoke to me with this next kind of section we're moving into. And it says, begin with
baby's dropping gems right now. Okay.
I'm trying to drop a little wisdom, a little insight, a little a nugget of knowledge. A nugget of knowledge. So yeah, so the quote, I mean, take it for what you will. It says, begin with the end in mind. And that is so perfect for kind of the first step in the psychology of what it means to set goals, which is imagination, which is seeing it, which is taking time to reflect on what it is that where you are and what it is that you want. And I think this step, and you kind of mentioned this in the beginning when you were talking about how you kind of set goals and stuff, that time to sit and cleanse and get out the cobwebs and then be with, your space in a way. And I think this is a really underrated step in the process of creating your goals, because it's not only about just kind of thinking about what you want, but it's also about thinking about where you are. And I think that I know I personally say I try to do it, but consciously doing it versus like generically doing it is a really, there's a big difference between them, I think.
No, 100%. It is. So that really resonates with me, not only because it's one of the most important steps, but like, and not to get too deep about this, man, but it's a step that a lot of people skip, because as adults, we're taught that we're not allowed to like daydream, right? We're taught that we're not allowed to fantasize, and we're taught that dreams that we had X amount of years ago, that there's a time limit and that you need to let go of them and all of that shit. And so much of our spirit and our ability to manifest and really see things for ourselves is really shut down. And I think I told you this, we had a conversation last week where I was like, yo, Nick, like the way that, and this is gonna sound a little like whatever to someone, but like, this is also going to really resonate with somebody who's listening right now. So that's not perfect. But being in Pittsburgh right now, I'm like Nick knows, and everyone who knows me, I'm a guy who's moved around a lot my whole life. But I'm trying to figure out the most like clear-headed way to say this, so I just have to say it. The way that I physically am right now, the way that I walk, the way that I look, the tattoos that I have, even like my skin, and when I look at myself, like I've seen this version of myself before I got here, like being in New York for a certain amount of time, like, I lost a little bit of my spirit, and I knew that I had to go on this journey to gain back who Richard really is. And I knew that involved going home and then placing myself where I wanted to be. But before I did all of that, I had to see it first. And I saw versions of myself in what I am and who I am now before I got here. So like, it truly is one of the most important steps.
Yeah. I mean, one of the facts that I was stumbled upon that I think is so connected to that is the only thing that is arguably science is saying that the defining characteristic of humans that made us to where we are today to create societies is not like our opposable thumbs, right? It's the ability that we have in our consciousness to think about the future and create new things from that, like not being able to move out of just thinking about the present. If you think of all their mammals, like they mostly think about their present moment circumstances, but they can't plan for the future. And that is the one thing that we've been able to do. Everything that we've created, like society, cars, houses, all of this has agricultural revolution, has all been our ability to plan for the future in terms of finding out when the seasons are changing so we can make better crops, to planning out like organization of towns so we know that we can all have all the things we need. Like all this stuff is integral to this idea of thinking about who you want to be in the future, or what's going to be in your best interest of how you change how you act now. So that just like blew my mind. I mean, I knew it, but like explaining it in that way or hearing it in that way really just like put it into context for me of how important it is to really imagine what it is that you want or who you want to be.
That's so valid. And I get that same feeling that you do, where you like second guess yourself really quickly because you're like, oh, that's such an easy thing to know. But we lose sight of it so quickly, the ability to see what we want ahead of us. So that's our first step. If our first step is to see it, what do we have after that?
Well, so, and this is why also I think New Year's is important, because I think, or like more powerful in some way, is that the next step that they say is you should talk to people about it. You should develop accountability for you to be able to, once you decide who you want to be, what you want to be, whatever, you make a goal.
This is a hard one.
Yeah, like no big deal. You just decide like what kind of person you are and who you and your whole essence. You talk to people about it, and what that does is it creates a community around not only you saying it out loud has an effect on hearing yourself say it, and then you put it out like into the universe where someone else has heard you say it, so you now feel like you have a responsibility to be accountable to that person because they've heard it to you. Which is like, we even read something about like people who post on Instagram about it, or like on social media about their goals and whatever. That can be, in this day and age, an actual helpful benefit for you being accountable. Like if I'm going to go on a fitness journey or whatever, and I post about it, and then I post every day, like people have done those challenges, like 365 days of this posting or that posting, and make what, even like people do it with gratitude, people do it with like going to the gym or something like that. And I think that can be, even in that way, like very benefiting to you actually accomplishing those step-by-step days process.
Yeah. Another thing that's so simple that that it's easy to lose track of or lose sight of. And it's also not easy. You know what I mean? I know for someone like me who has heard different phrases a lot, like move in silence, or like, like don't speak on it until it's done, or things like that. Like a part of me has moved for so long with like working on whatever I had inside of me with just myself in order to protect it. But a lot of that was blocking manifestation. And I never knew that until I started like studying the topic, like keeping things so personal out of fear of someone, out of fear of rejection, out of fear of failure, a multitude of reasons. But it's so important to put what you want out into the universe physically, to speak it, to make it real, you know what I mean? So that you give the universe that opportunity to actually return it to you.
Ooh, I felt all of that. That was just like, there was some
yes.
yeah, like honestly though, there's like so much in that, what you just said about like, in terms of like you're creating who you want to be, sharing that with other people. We're both artists here, so it's like, yeah, we all have these dreams of things that we want to do and create, but like if we don't actually just put them out there in some way, share it with our friends, our families, our loved ones, even just like fucking randos on social media, like to a certain extent, like, right, we'll say for another day, the podcast where I go off on social media, but for today.
Wait, I have another perfect example of this. Like it's another Nick example. It just happens to be that I love my best friend so much that I just only example that pops into my mind. But yo, the most perfect
Your most perfect example of the day.
the most perfect example to me of creating something and sharing it so that it becomes bigger is a play that Nick wrote called Killer Butterflies.
Mm.
Nick
Which
made,
is going to be a script,
yeah,
which is
okay.
is moving forward.
It's literally constantly evolving since its creation, and it started just in Nick's brain, and then he gave it to a couple of friends in his circle, including myself, and we did a small reading in Ridgewood in Brooklyn in a living room on a projector screen. From there, it turned into us. Doing more readings in more official studio spaces, and then doing actual runs of the show to Nick taking it and developing it further. And it's just so beautiful to watch the evolution of it, because I know that's something that started with Nick in his own space somewhere writing by himself, but we were able to bring it to fruition into real life, and it's still evolving today. And so that's the greatest example to me of like sharing something to make it more real, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, but also what made me keep going with it was having y'all be in it with me too. Like the account, like me sharing with you and then y'all continuing to want to do it. And then this symbiotic relationship of like, oh, cool. When's it going to be? Let's do this again. Like, let's make this happen. And then that would make me want to write more. And that would make me want to like critique it. And then that like I wanted to share it with other people. So like I wanted to create a run for it. So it's like, yeah, like the sharing of it was what made it become something other than just an idea in my head or a random like, amateur script that I had started to write. So yeah, I mean, I think community is such an important factor in us succeeding as humans too. Like we're not designed to live in this earth just to be by ourselves, to
Yeah.
not to have all these issues and struggles and wants and needs and, desires and just sit there with them in our head.
Yeah.
Like that's not the point of life.
Nobody's meant to journey this universe alone. That's for
Yeah. Yeah. So all of that. So
I will add as a side note that this play that Nick wrote is definitely about interpersonal connections and relationships, and about people not being able to touch, so they have to distance themselves and even distance their love. So basically, I hang out with Nostradamus, is what I'm saying.
I wrote that in 2013. Like
2013, he wrote this script about people not being able to touch and the societal effect of people not being able to physically reach each other. In 2013, whatever. Let's get back to the topic.
Yeah, we'll talk about dream visions in another podcast.
Whatever. Triple Lutz on you sluts because we like it rough.
Spicy. For you, I'm too pricey.
Oh, okay. Look. So I took us off. So
back to Earth.
Back to our first step is we're seeing it. The second step is we're sharing it, and we're sharing it with the universe and with people around us, and we're making it real. What's after that?
Okay, so the next step is make a plan. This is like in the intention process, like, and what's important for this step is realistic plan, and specifically like how you're gonna get it done day to day to day to day, not just like this is the goal. I want to like have like a certain amount of money, or I want to like get to this, style of being, but you have to break it down into daily activities and habits that will on its own by doing them get you to that goal, that end goal. So
the making a plan part for you is like, you're saying that it's actual, so that I understand, that we all understand, it's the like making, like literally writing down physical steps of what you're going to do.
yeah, I mean, to some degree, yes. Like, I mean, well, the easiest example for all New Year's resolutions is like, a weight change, right? Whether it be like more muscle or less weight, less fat, or whatever you want to call. But it's like, okay, so if you want to get to a certain weight or whatever, a certain build, you have to then go to the gym either a certain amount per week or amount per day, or you have to do a certain amount of physical activity, like, oh, I'm going to run for 30 minutes, or I'm going to do 50 push-ups every day. And that gives you a solid thing that you can track day to day to day, or I'm going to make sure I only eat these amounts of foods, right? I'm not going to eat this food or the other, or I'm going to make sure I have this amount of meals per day, or whatever you decide on, right? It gives you like a plan, an outline of things you can just do. And you don't have to continue to like overthink the end goal. You have the process that's going to get you there.
Yeah. Making a plan can make things so much more approachable, because I know that for me in my Aquarius mind, the hardest part about doing anything is the commitment to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that cloud of responsibility over you. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes for me, sitting down and making a plan is literally, it's just the steps that are going to make it easier for me in that process. So like for me, my journey through fitness has been a very long journey. And as much as I am into taking care of my body, I don't really, I won't say that I like working out, but I do love feeling good. So
Mm-hmm.
so with that in mind, I had to make steps. I had to take steps and make plans to make going to the gym and working out and being healthier easier for myself. Like I knew I wanted to feel better. So I set up a system where I like take my vitamins and I make the smoothie and then I do the thing. And there's just like really like
Mm-hmm.
sort of rigid system that I
Mm-hmm.
follow to help make the overall goal easier for me, you know? Because I'm just like, oh, I need to go to the gym more this year. Then it's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It seems very amorphous, and like we all say that we all feel how like I obviously I'm like, oh, I should eat less sugar. Like, of course I should, but like in a general sense, like if I don't set it up for myself, I'm just gonna fall back into my normal schedule of like, oh, I don't really want to like eat like that right now. I want to eat this, or I don't want to go to the gym today because I'm tired. Like you foresee the ability of yourself to not do the things that you're not in a habit of doing, and that's
Yeah.
why I think the first step is so important, right? Like really remind like setting your mind like exactly who you want to be, and then every time you make these choices, you do these plans, it's affirming this idea of like, oh, I'm making steps towards the person I want to be. So it's a self kind of fulfilling prophecy of a positive feedback loop when you make that plan. That, and keyword also here is realistic, a realistic plan. Like okay, maybe say I'm someone who never works out. I'm not going to start off by going to the gym for 2 hours every single day, right? Like you're going to burn out. So it's like realistic plan. Like again, the first step is so important. Like assess who you are, where you are, where you are in your life exactly, and make a plan that's going to build in a way that you can actually keep on top of it and stay accountable to it.
Yeah, one place where I just realized that this has really been effective in my life. Just even with just the beginning of this year, as artists and as performers, Nick and I have to submit ourselves to a lot of auditions and things like that. And the thought of having to constantly submit yourself to different like places can get a little bit overwhelming at times. And so with the new year, I sort of made this resolution in my mind to not not take any opportunity, which means submitting myself to almost everything that I could submit myself to. But I had to learn a process for this so it doesn't suck for me. So it's not like daunting and overwhelming. And now I have this process that feels good because I love to write things out. If an audition is a month ahead, I'll write it out and I'll put it somewhere where I can actually a swift change. Do you see those things right there?
Yeah.
Those are all upcoming auditions, and I have this system now
Ooh.
where I write it out and I post it in a space that I'm going to see creatively every day to give myself time, so I know that like it's ahead of me and not like you see this thing you have to submit right now and you have to do this, because that
Mm-hmm.
just like
Mm-hmm.
throws me off, you know. So I've
Yeah.
created this system with it, the plan of writing it out, look at it throughout the dates, make it happen, and it just feels more accessible to me, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like knowing knowing yourself enough to say, I know what my habits are normally to avoid this type of thing, and I need to
Yeah.
make a system for myself that actually makes it so I'm not perturbed by it,
Yeah.
and it actually comes to actually makes it happen.
Yeah, honestly, so no, that's exactly what it is. It's like I know that's 100% what it is. I know myself enough to know that like I want to deliver my best performance if I'm sitting down in front of a camera to sing or do a monologue. So it's like
Mhm.
that system is helping me get to that place every time now. So I'm so grateful for that sort of mental tenacity to be able to like execute that shit.
Snaps for snappy to snap. That reminded me actually what you just said about your showing me your little post-it notes and stuff. One thing I wanted to, again, I feel like the first step is, again, I'm going to keep saying it, the most important step, but like one of the things in there that we didn't mention yet was vision boarding, and
Oh
as a
yes.
concept of how to like put into the world what you want. And I have a really interesting antidote for that.
Well,
So
I think that's the perfect segue into our into the last part of our discussion, right?
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So let's
So,
save this for our next section. So we have the plan of how you set it up, you talk to people, you make a plan. And the next
okay,
is like,
set it up, you talk to people, you make the plan, and then we're at
and then it's about you. Now we have all these ideas of what we want to do. And now there's this underlying layer that I feel like I'm really excited to hit with you about you and your underlying kind of feelings about yourself and how that plays into how you set or attack goals in your
yeah,
life.
100%.
It can either, and here's the the cliffhanger, it can either work out really great and enhance your confidence, or it can contribute to your self-destruction.
You can either prepare yourself into greatness or prepare for the depths of hell. Hey, stick with us. When we get back, we're going to talk about setting healthy goals and unhealthy goals. But before we go, one of my favorite news segments.
Oh, I love this segment.
Hey, who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Who is this saying that? Who said that? Who said that?
Who said that? A new segment we're adding in our podcast journey is Who Said That? Which we talk about phrases and colloquialisms that you may not have known where they came from, but you hear all the time.
Yo, I love this shit. I'm so excited for this, and I don't even know what it is. So, Nick, tell me who said that.
Our phrase today is keep the ball rolling. Have you ever heard someone say that to you?
I mean, I've heard the phrase, but no one's ever told me to keep the ball rolling.
I feel like
my ball is always rolling.
I feel like I've heard it in random places, and I was like, just thought it meant like playing ball outside, but with your friend.
Honestly, it sounds like something that I would say to somebody, like, you know what, you're having trouble. Keep the ball rolling. Keep your shit rolling. What's up?
So interestingly, this phrase, keep the ball rolling, came from the US presidential election of July of 1840. It was through General William Henry Harrison's campaign, who created a song in which it said, the swift ball is rolling on from Tippecanoe and Tyler too, which I don't know what the fuck that means. But basically, it was a campaign literature referred to victory balls. And so basically, it was every time at a rally, there were dance parties that celebrated his famous victory with 10-foot diameter globes made of tin and leather that were pushed from one campaign rally to the next.
Oh, this is very triggering.
His supporters were invited to attend rallies and push the ball onto the next town, chanting, "Keep the ball rolling."
Sir, because you won an election, I have to push a lead ball? No, thank you, sir.
I believe it was during his campaign. But like, first of all, like,
let's talk about the materials of said ball, sir. This is made of lead.
Tin and leather. And you're making your constituents push the ball. Like, you're supposed to help them. Don't make them push the ball. And then like also propaganda for balls. Like, whatever.
Yeah, don't bring balls into your propaganda, man.
They're apolitical here. Don't make balls.
Don't put hashtag don't politicize my balls.
So next time you hear the phrase "keep the ball rolling," just you can thank William Henry Harrison's campaign managers.
Yo, that is wild.
There you go. Enjoy.
Oh, there you go, guys. Make sure you keep the ball rolling. I want to see all of you out there in the streets.
And I pass away.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for being here. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review and subscribe. Bye.
No, but honestly, what we're referring to overall is being able to set up healthy or recognize your healthy and non-healthy habits around goal setting and intention setting and what you do to get there and remain healthy in those spaces. I know what's really important to me in this process, and this came after I read, what's that? Is it The 4 Agreements?
There's a book called The 4 Agreements.
Yeah. If I could reach to the screen and punch you.
Go. Oh.
No.
we were friends. Oh God. This podcast is over. I'm out.
Podcast over.
Podcast over. Boom.
No, this last step, for me, really, and I brought up the 4 agreements because it kind of goes hand in hand with that for me, as far as like not punishing yourself, like not setting up a system of something that you think is going to help you, but simultaneously setting up a system of punishments if you don't do that thing according to how your mind you want it to do it or in the time frame that you want it to do it. That's been really detrimental to me at times. You know, like I would set a goal that's really great for myself, but the damage that I would do to myself based on not reaching it as quickly as I wanted to was even worse than than not reaching the goal itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a quote that we found in our research that I think I'd like you to share, Richard, that talks about this difference between when we make resolutions and New Year's. And this is what inspired us actually to write to this podcast about this, was the idea of New Year, New Me. It's like this feeling of like, I have to be a different person now, or I've been so shitty to myself, or I'm such a shitty person that I need to like revamp myself. I need to like get my shit together. All these phrases and this kind of toxic language we use around manifesting and doing, like, making goals and progress and stuff like that. It really, I think we all fall into it. And I think our culture kind of encourages this cynical nature about your self-esteem, right? Too. And glorifying it in a way.
I think that's no, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I don't know if you have the quote yet, if you want to go ahead and read it.
So the quote that Nick is referring to is, says, you don't need a new you. You don't need replacing every year like another iPhone. Don't throw yourself away like another piece of plastic trash. Love the old you, improve, evolve, do better, but head towards yourself, not away. Be gentle with your mind. That quote itself means a lot to me, because that's always been the struggle with the whole New Year, New Me mindset. It's like, New Year, New Me kind of feels like you have to abandon so much of the old version of you. And it's like you just went through a whole year's worth of experiences, and now you're throwing that away because it's New Year, when really, honestly, being most true to myself, like, I like to keep who I am. I like to build on that, and I like to grow it and evolve it, and not really operate with that sense of reckless abandonment, you know?
Yeah. I think what spoke to me about that quote a lot was this idea that it's about like your self-worth and your self-esteem in a way of like, if you are making goals with the idea that you're not good enough, then the continual process of making that goal is with the intention of reminding you that you're not good enough. And that's usually why people don't fail at these goals too, is they're trying to be someone other than who they are, and they're not working from where they are. They're trying to get this unattainable idea of what they like have always wanted by comparing themselves to other people. But again, this goes back to that first step, right? Of if you don't take the time to really realistically, objectively look at yourself, but also with a view of you're okay. Like, first and foremost, you're just trying to improve. We're always trying to improve, but there's this, and I think I've related to it a lot of like, I need to be a different person than I am because who I am is not good enough or whatever. Wow. So I think like this, be gentle with your mind, is like, you have to be able to look at yourself objectively and learn your strengths and weaknesses, and then make choices of goals that will help you improve on the things that you might be struggling with, right? In a way, without saying that you are a shitty person, or you are like
or just not enough. I mean, there's that thing that always happens psychologically that's almost like a Mandela effect thing, if you think about it hard enough. But it's like, there's that thing that happens when we look back at old photos and you see yourself and you're like, damn, I was snatched. You're like, damn, I was looking good at that time. As someone who's with image a lot, for whatever reasons, like, I look back at old photos of myself most times and I'm like, damn, boy, you were glowing, you were shining. Like, I hope you were appreciating yourself at that time. And I know in a lot of those days I wasn't. So I've really tried to hone in on that, being gentle with yourself process, because it's like, damn, if you look back with the same if you look back with the same eyes and treat yourself with those same eyes from that same point of view, you would be a lot kinder to yourself. You know?
Yeah, yeah, just being I mean, we talked about this the other day that we both have like gone through our photo album in the past year and like took in pictures at the time and been like, oh God, like I looked like shit in that picture, da, da. And then you go back like a month later and you're like, oh, I was so cute there. Yeah. You know, but like, why is there this cognitive dissonance of like not being able to see it in the moment, you know? And I think that's just a reflection of your own mind. And like, you know, I, you know, I would hope I would want everyone to have that feeling of in the moment, they're always like contributing to their own self-love. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, we grew up in the performing world, so it's like there's an inherent kind of judgmental factor in that. But I think it's not exclusive to that. I think everyone with social media, and this is my, you know, hitting on social media, is like it's so easy now to compare yourself to everyone. And, you know, you see like, oh, a lifestyle or a physical body or like whatever something someone has or does that you want. It just initially puts this onus on you to feel like you're behind in some way. And
Yeah.
and I think,
I mean, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, if I think if we don't catch ourselves when we're doing things like making goals, you can make a goal that's going to continually wake you up every day and remind you that you're not where you want to be versus you're progressing as yourself.
Exactly. It's that positive thinking about yourself and where you want to be, right? And not punishing yourself, because the greatest key to progression is gratefulness, right? So being able to be in the moment and appreciate where you are and want to progress without the pressure of punishment on top of that is truly a gift. You know, like you have to be able to want to move forward and do better. Like the age-old quote is, when you know better, do better. It's not when you know better, punish yourself if it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I would love to unpack that word gratefulness for a hot second, because
Yeah.
I struggle with that as a concept. And I think I've seen so much over the year of like, you know, and I've even said it to other people, you know, I'm being grateful for what I have. Like the world sucks, is the world on fire, but like, I'm like being grateful for the little things I have. And I think, again, there's a positive and negative way to do that as well, too, because it's like, you have to be able to acknowledge what is uncomfortable or what is not right or doesn't feel good. At the same time, you don't have to like, you don't have to identify with that as how you view your own life and your own personage, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you can, like, I feel like grateful. I feel like sometimes I've been almost like attacked on social media of like, be grateful for what you have, like have gratitude, do this, do that. And it's like, well, maybe I don't feel grateful at the moment, you know? And I
Yeah.
think there's like this, like, again, it's like this, the word that keeps coming back to me is like the quote, and be gentle with your mind, right? Like you can feel unhappy about something and feel stuck and feel kind of complicated with your life, but also take a moment to let that be. But two things can exist at once, right? You can be grateful for the house you live in, waking up in a comfortable bed. You can be grateful for being able to pay for groceries, you know, having a job if you have one, all these things, and still also be looking to improve on the things that don't fit your life. Like, oh, like my job lost from the pandemic, or like, you know, or I'm, you know, I'm gaining a lot of weight because I've been sitting around and eating shit while I watch Netflix all day. You know, things like that. Like they can both exist at the same time.
If you want something, you're not where you are. And if you want something and you're not in a place where you can actually get that thing, it would also behoove you to not hate yourself in the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's such a fine line of being able to hold both those things in the same. And this idea of self-love, like what I have here, like honest reflection is equal to like objectively and mindfully, lovingly evaluating yourself. And so it's this kind of like, it's almost like a parent, like if you're talking to yourself like a parent in a way, you know, like the parent always loves the child, even if they're trying to improve them or teach them a lesson in a way. So it's kind of that, like, you have to do that for yourself in a lot of ways. I don't think we have that kind of self-talk in our society right now of being able to exemplify that or encourage that in a lot of ways.
Well, there's just so much, again, and outside of that, like overall, even in our society, there's so much negativity around setting goals and manifesting and things like that. And people think it's like, like okie dokie, like weird if you're like
Or like
sitting there.
hippy dippy.
But I know from a personal point of view, and I shared this story with you earlier this week. Like I really got into vision boarding at the end of last year, and just sitting in a clear space and setting my intentions for the days ahead of me. And it wasn't until, I was able to really sit down and be clear on what I wanted and put it onto a vision board. And I even started setting dates to things, which is really weird for me. So like I put a certain amount of the rest of the year on a vision board. And one specific goal that I had there, I didn't even realize that it had manifested itself and came to fruition until after it was over. And that was working at a specific theater in Pittsburgh. And I set goal when I was at home in Mississippi, mid-pandemic, when no one is thinking about theater. And it actually happened. And it wasn't until after it was done that I was able to take a step back and be like, oh, I wanted this thing, I willed it, and then it happened. And who knows how beautiful or not beautiful the actual process was. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah,
I just made sure that I was gentle with myself. And looking back, I know that throughout it, I was good to myself in getting there. And then it happened for me,
Yeah, so I don't know if you used to watch infomercials when you were younger, but I did. And one of them that I was obsessed
with. You used to seek them out?
I had like basic cable growing up. Like I had like 5 channels, and one of them was like one of those channels that always had infomercials on all the time. So like I would watch these. And so I grew up a vegetarian. Yep. And there was this one infomercial that I was obsessed with, this like rotisserie chicken like oven.
What?
I forget so if anyone remembers, please comment on it. But it was this like guy, and he would always show this like rotisserie oven he would like advertise, and he had this saying every time. He would be like, it's so easy, all you have to do is put it in, set the timer and set it, and the audience would respond and forget it. And it was this like set it literally was set it and forget it. And I fucking not, as cheesy as it was and how how capitalistic as all of that is, like this feeling of set it and forget it has stuck with me, because this is exactly what when you were talking about it, it's like you put it out there in this kind of positive light of like this thing you wanted, and you just kind of let it be. And I mean, yes, we talk about the plan and everything, but there is this kind of putting it out there universally, like claiming it, like with the vision board stuff, like, and it does put something in motion. Like, as we talked about earlier, like if our imagination, our imagining something we want is the first step to even making it happen. So it's like, I struggle with these like toxic positivity people on social media about, self-help gurus who are like, all you have to do is believe it, because like there's a lot of neoliberal kind of problematic statements in there about like, realistically, what you can achieve. But at the same time, there is truth to nothing happens unless you actually put it into existence.
It's very true. It's very valid. And so with all of this, like, I think we've taken a good dive into like, like the steps and how we get there. But I think you should help us. If there's anyone out there who's wondering, like, why still, you know what I mean? Like, or like, what is the point of setting goals? Like, let's round that up for them. So like, what are the biggest benefits from goal setting and intention placing?
Well, so I should clarify the benefits of healthy goal settings, because again, I hope it's come clear about there are difference between if you're doing it healthfully or you're doing it unhealthily.
Absolutely.
So it provides, so it basically enlightens you, because it provides like meaningful insight into your abilities. And so this first step we're talking about, if you're looking deep within yourself, it'll help enlighten you into just what's going on. Like how introspection is such an underrated. That's why people talk about meditation being helpful in like half of the time, right? Because it gives you time to actually look inside and see what's going on in this brain of yours, like what your consciousness existence is, rather than being distracted 24/7. So taking a moment to really check in with yourself like that enlightens you into really your true self, into what's the reality of yourself, your mind. And then it can encourage you, because if you're
just really quickly, for me, that just means like that simply means clarity for me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like to
Mhm.
be enlightened, like having enlightenment as a benefit of setting a goal or intention just means clarity. You
Mhm.
know, like you actually sit down and know what it is that you want because you took the time to think about it
Yeah.
clearly, you know? I
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah. And then once you do that healthfully, you look at yourself and you make a kind of sort of goal. You make this once you make the steps, the realistic steps, it actually encourages you because kind of mentioned earlier when you make a
Mm,
realistic plan, you every time you go ahead and succeed in doing that day to day to day, it reminds you, oh, I'm succeeding in my goal right now because I made this one step today that reminds me of the positive person I want to be in the future, and I'm doing the things that I said I was going to do to get there. So it's like this again positive feedback loop of encouraging you to keep going.
and honestly, that's what looking at a plan to me looks like. That's what my
Mhm.
audition wall looks like. It looks like it looks like the universe, and it sounds like the universe being like, "All right, like you can do this. The steps are right here. Like take it easy. Don't get overwhelmed. You got it. Here are the steps that you literally placed here to make this easier for yourself." You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and this just side note. I mean, like, yeah, like making a plan that is realistic in a way that you're the only one that has to do it. So if you really look inside yourself and say, what's going to make me honestly a better person, what's going to make me feel better in the long term, those steps you make got to be something that you want to do day to day too. Like there has to be this connection between the steps you're taking to do it that really triggers something in you to want to do it versus just I have to do this because I need to be a better person. No, like it should really
Yeah.
connect with your values, right?
Yep.
Um, and so the final thing it does is it enables you. Goal setting enables you to achieve the balance between the real and ideal self. It actually bridges that gap between you being able to want to be someone and taking the steps to get there. So it makes you feel empowered and it gives you a sense of progress day to day to day that makes you feel capable of actually doing other things in your life, maybe that you want to do
That
on a side
enabling,
note.
it's almost like that enabling, it's almost like it's giving you the authority. It's like, yeah, you can do that. Like,
Mhm,
no, you actually can. Like you wanted it,
mhm.
you worked for it, you encourage yourself. So like you can have it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, just so if you do all these things, like it can encourage things like social support. If you've shared your goals with other people, you're talking about it. Can help your confidence when you're succeeding in those things you want to do, and you're trying to like you're feeling better about your own like self worth. And then gives you a chance to evaluate your achievements or your struggles as you go, and that continual feedback loop of like looking at yourself and trying to like make sure it aligns with your values and everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's just it's after, I had a positive feeling about, manifesting and goal setting before this, but after like we did this research and talking about this, it really makes me excited to like to sit down and do these things personally. And for I hope those who are listening, like if you've set a goal or plan to set a goal and you kind of let it fall to the wayside after, it's now the end of January, like revamp it up. You can always revamp it. You can always take that
Yeah.
time now if you didn't do it before specifically to remind yourself this is probably when all of us went through that slump of our goals. So
Honestly.
it's the
That's
perfect
that's that's
time.
that's really what I want to give everyone in this
Mhm.
episode as well is just like just know you guys that like if you have something or you want something, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's so damn possible, you
It's
know?
well,
And
you
all
can
it
make
takes
it
is
possible. I think
you can make it possible.
we all do this thing. I mean, again, it's like I fall into like, oh, the lofty goals of like my dreams, right? Versus like, well, what's a step that I can get there with? What the things I can do today that will get me towards that goal day by day. There's a quote here I also want to share that spoke to me about this kind of idea. Is the quote is, "It's funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different."
Yeah.
And so that's like that quintessential, like it is what you're doing today that affects who you become in the future. But if you're not being mindful about those things that you're doing today, you just become like a general thing of an unconscious, living organism, which we're so much more, and it's not that you, whatever, like you can live however you want. But at the same time, like we're so much more capable as a species and as like if you believe in souls, which I definitely do, you know, this idea of like our kind of soul growth here.
Yeah,
is,
truly. And
is
our biggest limitations come from ourself, you know? So
right,
we
right.
just the innate ability to want more is amazing. And the ability to act on that is superb. So like shout out to anyone who's still out there like trying and revamping their dreams. Cause we have to admit that like we are still in a very trying time globally. So like, yo, major shout out and like props to anyone who's out there like revamping their dreams and still like holding on to shit and like evolving it and like making it different and better. Like, yo, that takes work. So like shout out to that for real.
Yeah, and again, it's like it's both. It's like continue to grow and be gentle with your mind. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's all of it. I do have one little final vision board story that I want to share though. Before we close out here in a minute.
Yeah.
That really, I was talking to a friend the other when I was preparing for this podcast. I was chatting about this
What the
subject.
fuck are you doing with other friends?
Listen, if you want to fight, you can come to California where I live, and you can fight, and we can figure it out. But it would be more of like a mental fight. I don't want to physically fight. I don't believe in violence.
It would be more of a shade fest, if anything.
Ahimsa, please. So anyways, I was chatting with someone who's not a friend, but I happened to be talking to the other day about this. And I was bringing up the subject of vision boards, and he was like, oh yeah, like he actually just moved to California as well. And he was like, oh yeah, I set a vision board when I moved out of New York, and I traveled across the country for a while. I did a little tour of the country. He's like, one of the things I did in my vision board and for my travels was adventure. He's like, he picked this word adventure and he posted it, and then he found pictures from like a magazine or whatever. And he found this one picture of a guy standing on a mountain, and it was like a pose in the sun and whatever. And so then he went, whatever, set it there on his vision board, went traveling throughout the country, went to a couple like mountains and parks he wanted to go to. He ended up going to this park in fucking Wyoming or something and found the exact spot that this picture was taken in. That
Oh wow.
he posted on his vision board. And
Yo, that's gnarly.
like the exact spot of the mountain. And like when he looked it up, it was the exact same mountain, like everything he didn't know until he actually found it, like stumbled upon it in his travels. And I was like, that to me is just one of those moments of, you can call it synchronicity or serendipity or chance or whatever you want to call it, but that is just so fucking cool in my opinion.
Oh, that is so dope.
And it's what you said about your vision board stuff. It's like we put these things out there, and yes, there is the planning and there is the goal setting, but to a certain degree, like that you put it in motion the moment you think it, you know. Yeah. And it's like it's same with like what we're talking about, these like positive and negative views of ourselves. If you're thinking negatively about yourself and you're unaware of it, it's going to cultivate more of that, versus if you're consciously being loving to yourself and gentle and moving forward in a way that is progressive and fruitful, you know.
Yes, be gentle with your brain.
Yeah. You can, again, as I said earlier, you can hold both. You can still be critical of yourself. You can still be, progressing, and also still love yourself at the same time. You can acknowledge your faults and not make it a identification of who you are.
Yeah. And then of course, like when you realize you willed it, your friend who realized that he had walked that mountain, I know for him and for me 100%, there was this moment of like gratitude again. Like once I realized that like that was something that I wanted, and I put it on a board to let the universe and myself be reminded that I wanted it, and it already happened for me. And I was like, oh, like, cool. Yeah.
It's like self-affirming. It's like, it's very self-affirming.
100%.
Yeah. And I mean, I think community is a big part of it too. So I mean, like if you are listening to this and you're inspired at all, like call someone you care about and talk to them about your goals, like that.
No, and don't be afraid to like leave it in our comments as well. Like I love reading what people have planned. Like honestly, it's not just for comment count or any like artificial or like superficial shit like that. I love knowing what people have planned for the new year and what's in their mind and what direction we're all headed in. So like, if you want to speak some stuff into existence and you have nowhere else to place it, or you're afraid to tell someone else, yo, write it in our comments, DM us, tell us we're listening and we support.
Yeah, and We'll share your shit, honestly.
Yo, we'll share your shit anytime.
Positive Vibes podcast. So we're all about sharing the positive vibes ever. So give us your successes, give us your wins, give us your struggles, and we'll figure it out. We'll talk about it. We'll bring it up. So yeah, I hope that gives you all some sort of like, I don't know, something good, something good about like the idea of goal setting and how to make it less random and less negative.
How to make it less random, less negative, and more real, more approachable. And I hope that it's a confidence booster for somebody as well. You know,
Yeah.
like earlier, if you have something that you've let slip by the wayside, even if it's a resolution that you made for this year that's dropped already, the best part about progress is that it can start anytime. So like start that shit over right now.
Yeah, and again, it's still January, so you have time. And if it's February by the time you listen to this, you have time.
Also, time is a social construct, so you have nothing but time.
Yeah, or you don't have time at all.
No. Okay, so look, I think that's a perfect place for us to wrap up this the first inaugural episode of Routine Progress in 2021.
Yes.
We like again a big thank you to anyone who has like stuck with us throughout our little hiatus. We're back again, and we love being here with you all. And this first episode being back is so amazing.
Yes, I hope you're ready for such new, cool, curated, conceptual conversations.
I hope you're ready for constipated conversations about complications.
I just said like 5 C words, like cool, creative, curated, conceptual conversations.
Kathy creates cool crustaceans.
King Triton. Okay.
Now, what do we have to say to wrap this thing up, though? What are we doing?
Yeah, we have. Okay, so it's time to go. So thank you so much for listening, as always. If you're enjoying our content, please like us and validate us across all algorithms out there. Just like commenting.
No, wherever you do your liking, like our shit.
Yeah, I mean, we all know how this game works now, so it would really help us just to kind of do the thing that you know how to do to make sure that like shit gets pushed somewhere.
That's us being promo boys.
That's as far as I can go with this fucking like capitalistic algorithm world.
That's all we got for that.
So I mean, we'll just end with just stay curious, man.
And as always, stay real.
Bye, babes.
Bye. Welcome to the future.
Bye with cool painted green nails here today. Coming at you live.
Triple laps on your sluts because we like it rough.
Spicy, but you I'm too pricey.
Pricey.
Oh my God.